In January 2025, shoppers at an upscale mall in Miami noticed a woman being pushed through the building in a wheelchair. She wore dark glasses, loose black clothing, and a large orthopedic boot on her right foot. Two young girls walked close beside her, while a friend pushed the chair. For a moment, she might have passed without attracting much attention. Then, people recognized her. It was Anna Kournikova. The sight was difficult to reconcile with the woman millions remembered. Anna had once moved across a tennis court with remarkable speed, chasing balls that seemed beyond her reach and meeting them with a two-handed backhand that could change the direction of a rally in an instant. During the late 1990s, her face appeared on magazine covers, television commercials, sports programs, and newspaper pages around the world. Now she was 43, sitting quietly in a wheelchair during one of her rare public appearances. There was no official announcement explaining what had happened. The orthopedic boot suggested that she was recovering from an injury involving her foot or leg. But neither Anna nor her longtime partner, Enrique Iglesias, publicly provided further details. There was no confirmed diagnosis and no statement, suggesting that she was facing a life-threatening illness. Still, the photographs unsettled many people. Perhaps that was because Anna had already been absent from public life for so long. She had not simply retired from professional tennis and moved into another visible career. She had gradually stepped away from interviews, red carpets, television appearances, and nearly every part of the celebrity world that once surrounded her. For younger viewers, Anna Kournikova may be known mainly as Enrique Iglesias' partner and the mother of his children. But anyone who followed tennis in the 1990s remembers something different. They remember the teenager from Moscow who arrived on the international circuit with a long blonde braid and a fearless expression. They remember the crowded practice courts at Wimbledon where spectators gathered simply to watch her train. They remember photographers following her between matches and reporters asking questions that often had little to do with tennis. For several years, Anna seemed to be everywhere. She reached the Wimbledon semi-finals at 16. She climbed to number 8 in the world in singles and later became the world's #1 doubles player. Alongside Martina Hingis, she won 2 Australian Open doubles championships and became part of one of the most recognizable partnerships in women's tennis. Yet the public story surrounding her was rarely that simple. Her beauty made her famous far beyond the sport. But that fame also changed how people judged her. Every defeat became evidence that she was merely a celebrity. Every advertising campaign was used to question her commitment. Her doubles achievements were often pushed aside because she never won a singles title on the main tour. Then, while she was still in her early 20s, injuries began taking away the career she had spent nearly her entire childhood building. There was no farewell match under bright stadium lights, no final Wimbledon ceremony, no long retirement tour that allowed fans to say goodbye. One season, she was struggling to return. Then the months passed. Her ranking disappeared, and Anna Kournikova was simply gone. The wheelchair photograph brought all of those memories back. It also revived a question that had followed her for more than 20 years. What happened to the young woman who had once been one of the most photographed athletes on Earth? To understand why Anna disappeared, we have to return to a very different place and time, to a small apartment in Moscow, where a little girl received her first tennis racket before she was old enough to understand how completely the sport would shape her life. Anna Sergeyevna Kournikova was born in Moscow on June 7, 1981, into a family where physical discipline was part of everyday life. Her father, Sergey, had competed in Greco-Roman wrestling and later worked in sports education. Her mother, Alla, had been a runner. They did not begin with a plan to create a tennis champion. They had an energetic little girl, and they wanted to give that energy somewhere useful to go. Anna received her first tennis racket when she was 5. Years later, she remembered that the beginning was surprisingly ordinary. She played only a couple of times each week in a children's program. Her parents were not thinking about international tournaments or professional contracts. Anna went because she enjoyed moving, hitting the ball, and being around the other children. That changed quickly. By 7, she was training more seriously at Moscow's Spartak Tennis Club under coach Larisa Preobrazhenskaya. The club had produced accomplished Soviet players, but it offered none of the polished comfort later associated with private tennis academies in the United States. Moscow winters were long. Court time was valuable. Children who wanted to improve learned to use every available minute. Anna would attend school, then travel to the club, and remain there for much of the day. Tennis gradually stopped being one activity among many. It became the structure around which the rest of her childhood was arranged. At 8, she began playing junior events. Soon, international scouts were watching. What they noticed was not simply that she could hit the ball hard. Anna was quick, fiercely competitive, and unusually comfortable taking the ball early. She did not wait quietly behind the baseline. She moved forward, changed direction, and played with the confidence of someone much older. Nick Bollettieri's tennis academy in Bradenton, Florida, had already become one of the most famous training grounds in the sport. Andre Agassi, Monica Seales, and Jim Courier had passed through its courts. Bollettieri's program was built around repetition, competition, and the belief that promising children should train in an environment filled with other promising children. When Anna was around 10, she left Moscow for Florida with her mother. The move is easy to describe in one sentence. Living it would have been different. A Russian child arrived in a hot American town where the language, food, classrooms, and daily routines were unfamiliar. Her father remained in Moscow. While many girls her age were still deciding which hobbies they liked, Anna's days were already centered on becoming a professional athlete. At the academy, there was always another talented player across the net. Practice was not simply preparation for competition. Practice was competition. Every drill offered a comparison, and every comparison showed who was moving forward and who was falling behind. Old footage from those years shows a small, serious girl striking the ball with both hands from the backhand side. Between points, she rarely looks toward the camera. The attention had not yet become overwhelming. At that stage, the court still appeared to be the simplest part of her life. By 14, the results were impossible to ignore. In 1995, Anna won the 18 and under Orange Bowl, one of junior tennis's most respected international tournaments. She finished the year recognized as the ITF Junior World Champion. That same season, she entered a professional event in Moscow and reached the doubles final during her WTA debut. She was still young enough to require adults to organize nearly every part of her life, yet she was already competing against women who had spent years on the professional tour. The following year, Anna entered the US Open at 15. She advanced to the 4th round before facing Steffi Graf, the world's leading player and eventual champion. Anna lost, but reaching the second week of a Grand Slam at that age announced something clearly. The girl sent from Moscow to Florida was no longer merely a promising junior. She was ready for the world to see her. Neither Anna nor her family could have known how intensely the world would begin looking. Wimbledon had seen young champions before, but Anna Kournikova arrived in 1997 with something that could not be measured by a ranking. She was 16 years old, playing in her first Wimbledon main draw, and almost immediately people began gathering wherever she went. They watched her matches, crowded around the practice courts, and waited near the narrow walkways of the All England Club, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. At first, the attention could be explained by her tennis. Anna defeated 3 seeded players during that tournament. In the quarterfinals, she faced Eva Majoli, who had won the French Open only a few weeks earlier. Majoli was older, more experienced, and entering the match as a Grand Slam champion. Anna beat her in straight sets. That victory placed her in the Wimbledon semifinals against Martina Hingis. The two teenagers represented a new generation arriving faster than anyone expected. Hingis was already the #1 player in the world. Anna was still ranked outside the top 40, but she played without appearing intimidated by the occasion. Hingis won the semifinals 6-3, 6-2, and went on to take the title. Anna left Wimbledon without the trophy, yet her life had already changed. Newspapers that normally devoted their sports pages to established champions suddenly wanted photographs of the Russian teenager. Television programs invited her to appear. Companies saw a young athlete who could sell tennis equipment, clothing, watches, and almost anything else placed beside her image. It happened so quickly that the public began meeting the celebrity before it truly understood the player. Anna played an aggressive game. She took the ball early, moved well at the net, and struck her backhand with unusual confidence. Her serve was less reliable, and there were days when her attacking style produced too many errors. But she was not merely surviving because of publicity. She was defeating experienced professionals on the largest courts in tennis. In 1998, she reached the final of the Miami tournament after beating 4 top 10 opponents, including Monica Seles and Lindsay Davenport. In the championship match, Anna won the first set against Venus Williams before losing in 3. It was the closest she came to winning a major singles title on the regular tour. That final would follow her for years, because the one fact repeated more than any other was that Anna Kournikova never won a WTA singles tournament. The statement was true, but it gradually became a shortcut used to dismiss everything else she accomplished. By 2000, she had reached number 8 in the world in singles. Reaching the top 10 required more than appearing on magazine covers. It meant winning consistently against players who had trained since childhood, traveling nearly every week, changing surfaces, managing injuries, and performing in front of crowds that often seemed more interested in watching Anna than in watching the match. Her strongest results came in doubles, where her quick reactions and comfort near the net became even more valuable. With Martina Hingis, Anna formed one of the most popular teams of the era. They were close in age, competitive, playful, and noticeably different from the more formal partnerships usually seen on tour. Reporters nicknamed them the Spice Girls of tennis, a label that captured the attention surrounding them, but again made it easy to overlook how well they played. Anna and Martina won the Australian Open doubles title in 1999. They also won the season-ending championships that year and repeated that victory in 2000. Anna became the world's #1 doubles player while still 18. A second Australian Open title followed in 2002. The official record would eventually show 16 doubles titles, 2 Grand Slam championships, a #1 doubles ranking, and a career-high singles ranking of number 8. Yet, outside tennis, a different version of Anna was taking over. Her name became a search engine phenomenon. Her posters appeared on bedroom walls. Photographers followed her through airports and hotels. Questions about her clothes, relationships, and appearance increasingly replaced questions about forehands and match strategy. The fame brought money and opportunity, but it also created a difficult standard. When Anna won, the cameras admired her. When she lost, people suggested she had never been a serious athlete. And just as she was trying to prove that the public had underestimated her tennis, her body began giving her reasons to worry. The first serious warning came at a moment when Anna Kournikova should have been entering the strongest years of her career. In February 2001, she suffered a stress fracture in her left foot. At first, it sounded like the kind of injury an athlete could treat with rest. Instead, it became the beginning of a season filled with doctors, cancelled flights, rehabilitation sessions, and tournaments watched from a distance. Anna underwent surgery in April. She missed the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. 3 of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments disappeared from her calendar, while other players continued competing and collecting ranking points. By the end of the season, she had fallen from the edge of the top 10 to number 74 in singles. For someone whose commitment was already questioned almost every week, being injured created another kind of pressure. When Anna appeared in advertisements, critics asked why she was not playing. When she attempted to return, they questioned whether she had prepared properly. The public saw the photographs and endorsement campaigns. It did not see the hours spent trying to place weight on an injured foot without pain. This was not the first time Anna had tried to compete while hurt. Earlier in her career, doctors had advised her to rest an ankle for a month. Shortly before the French Open, she booked a practice court anyway. She could not run normally, so balls were fed directly toward her racket. She still entered the tournament. That stubbornness had helped carry her from Moscow to Wimbledon, but it also made accepting physical limits extremely difficult. Anna returned in 2002 and showed that her tennis had not disappeared. She reached several singles semi-finals and advanced to the final of a tournament in China. In doubles, she reunited with Martina Hingis and won their second Australian Open championship. For a brief period, the old rhythm seemed to be returning. Then another injury arrived. A damaged ligament in her left ankle ended her 2002 season early. The following year, she strained her back during the Australian Open and withdrew from a tournament in Tokyo. She returned in Miami, but her body no longer allowed her to build any momentum. In April 2003, during a match in Charleston, Anna stopped playing because of pain from a left adductor injury. She later entered smaller events in Georgia and Virginia, hoping that matches away from the largest stadiums might help her recover her confidence and fitness. They did not. At Sea Island, she reached the semi-finals, but withdrew before facing a young Maria Sharapova. In Charlottesville, Anna lost in the opening round. It became the final competitive singles match of her career. There was no announcement that evening saying the end had arrived. Anna was only 21. The natural assumption was that she would rest, receive treatment, and return the following season. She seemed too young for people to use the word retirement. In June, she traveled to Birmingham, England, hoping to prepare for Wimbledon. During practice, the chronic pain in her back returned. Reports from the time described her leaving the court in tears. Months later, Anna admitted that the injury kept coming back. She said she did not want to enter tournaments unless she could participate at 100%. Exhibition matches were still possible, but the weekly demands of the professional tour had become too much. Years afterward, she explained how severe the problem had become. The pain in her lower back could make ordinary movements difficult. Training for hours, traveling between continents, and playing several matches in 1 week were no longer realistic. The career did not finish with one dramatic fall. It ended through missed tournaments, attempted comebacks, quiet withdrawals, and mornings when her body could not do what it had done since childhood. By the time the tennis world understood that Anna Kournikova was not returning, she had already begun facing a question more frightening than another difficult opponent. Without professional tennis, she had no idea what the rest of her life was supposed to look like. For most professional athletes, retirement arrives after years of preparation. They know the final season is approaching. They choose a tournament, wave to the crowd, and begin imagining what comes next. Anna Kournikova never had that kind of ending. She had spent nearly every year since childhood following the same routine. Wake up, train, recover, travel, compete, and begin again. Then the tournament schedule disappeared. There were no rankings to protect, no match times taped to a locker room wall, and no opponent waiting on the other side of the net. Anna was famous enough to remain in the public eye, but she was no longer able to do the one thing that had made the attention understandable. At first, she did not leave tennis completely. She played occasional exhibition matches and appeared in charity events, where the atmosphere was less demanding than the professional tour. In 2005, she joined John McEnroe, Chris Evert, and Andy Roddick in an event organized to help victims of the Indian Ocean tsunami. She also competed in world team tennis, playing doubles for the St. Louis Aces. These appearances allowed her to experience parts of the sport without asking her body to survive a full season. There were familiar sounds: the ball meeting the strings, shoes moving across the court, spectators reacting to a sharp volley. But the pressure was different. She no longer had to prove that she deserved her ranking. Away from tennis, Anna continued receiving offers connected to the fame she had built during her playing years. She attended events, worked with charitable organizations, and appeared in fitness programs. In 2011, she joined the American television series The Biggest Loser as a trainer. Viewers who knew Anna mainly from magazine covers saw another side of her. She was demanding, but she also became emotionally involved with the contestants. The program's executive producer later described her as focused and sincere, recalling that she sometimes cried while listening to their personal stories. The role lasted only 1 season. Anna did not return for the following year, and television never became the permanent second career some expected. Once again, she stepped away rather than forcing herself into a public position simply because it was available. By then, one relationship had become the quiet center of her private life. Anna met Enrique Iglesias in 2001 while appearing in the music video for his song, Escape. The video placed them together in a series of romantic scenes, including one filmed inside a public restroom. Their chemistry was intended for the cameras, but their relationship continued after filming ended. They began appearing together publicly, although neither seemed interested in explaining every detail to the press. That decision was unusual at the time. Anna had lived through years when reporters followed her movements, photographed her at airports, and turned rumors about her personal life into international headlines. Enrique understood a similar kind of exposure. As the son of Julio Iglesias and a global music star in his own right, he also knew what it meant to have strangers discussing his family and relationships. Over the years, questions about marriage followed them everywhere. Their answers were rarely dramatic. Ana said in a 2008 interview that marriage was not important to her. Enrique later explained that he did not believe a legal document made two people love each other more. They stayed together without providing the public with the ceremony it expected. For Ana, this period marked a gradual reversal. The young woman who had once been photographed almost every day began deciding which parts of her life would remain unseen. The cameras had helped turn her into a global celebrity. Now she was learning that she did not have to keep standing in front of them. For years, the public kept waiting for Anna Kournikova to return. Some expected another attempt at professional tennis. Others assumed she would become a full-time television personality, a commentator, or the permanent face of a major fitness brand. She had enough name recognition to remain visible for as long as she wanted. Instead, Ana began building a life that depended on being seen less. She and Enrique Iglesias settled in Miami, far from the weekly rhythm of tournaments and the constant movement of his international tours. Their relationship continued without the usual celebrity milestones. There was no heavily promoted wedding, no reality program, and very little explanation offered to reporters. Even after more than 2 decades together, they rarely appeared as a couple on red carpets. That privacy became even more important when Ana entered motherhood. In December 2017, she and Enrique welcomed twins, Nicholas and Lucy. The news surprised much of the public because the pregnancy had been kept almost completely private. There had been no formal announcement, no regular photographs documenting each month, and no public campaign built around the arrival. For someone who had once been photographed simply walking through an airport, keeping such a major part of her life hidden was remarkable. Ana occasionally shared small pieces of the family's world afterward. A child dancing in the garden, a birthday celebration, Enrique lying on the floor while the twins climbed over him. The clips were brief and usually playful. They offered enough to show warmth inside the home without turning the children into public figures. In January 2020, Ana gave birth to another daughter, Mary. Enrique later revealed that they sometimes called her Masha, a traditional Russian form of the name Maria. It was a small reminder that the life Ana had built in Florida still contained pieces of the country she had left as a child. Motherhood also changed how people looked at her absence. For years, Ana's retreat had been described as though something had gone wrong. Articles asked where she had gone or why she no longer appeared in public. But raising 3 young children while protecting them from the attention that had followed her since adolescence offered another explanation. She had not vanished because the world no longer wanted her. She had chosen a life in which public attention was no longer the most important measure of success. Then, in January 2025, the photographs from the Miami shopping center appeared. Ana was using a wheelchair and wearing an orthopedic boot on her right foot. Her daughters Lucy and Mary were beside her. The images immediately produced concern, especially because the public knew so little about her daily life. No detailed explanation followed. The photographs suggested an injury, but the exact cause was never publicly confirmed. Ana did not release a medical statement, and Enrique did not turn the moment into a public update. Once again, the family kept private matters private. Several months later, there was unexpected news. In August 2025, reports emerged that Ana and Enrique were expecting another child. On December 17th, they welcomed their 4th baby. Ana shared a simple photograph and called the child "My Sunshine," offering little more than the date of birth. 3 months later, she posted a photograph of all 4 children together and revealed the youngest boy's name, Romeo. By then, the wheelchair image had acquired a different context. Whatever injury Ana had been recovering from at the beginning of 2025, the year did not end with a tragic announcement. It ended with a newborn child at home and a family that had quietly grown once again. At 45, Ana's days no longer revolve around rankings, press conferences, or practice schedules posted outside a locker room. They revolve around 4 children. The woman once followed by hundreds of photographers now shares only the moments she chooses. The athlete, whose career ended before she was ready, has spent more than 20 years building something the injuries could not take away. But one question still remains. When people remember Anna Kournikova today, do they remember what actually happened to her? Or only the version of her that the cameras created? By the time Anna Kournikova turned 45, more years had passed since her final professional match than she had spent playing on the tour. That alone explains why the photographs from Miami felt so startling. People were not comparing the woman in the wheelchair with someone they had seen a few months earlier. They were comparing her with a memory preserved from another century. The blonde teenager running onto Wimbledon's grass, smiling beside Martina Hingis, or standing before a wall of photographers who seemed interested in every part of her life. The difference between those images was more than 20 years. Anna did not lose those years. The public simply did not witness most of them. What happened to her was not one mysterious event. There was no secret disappearance and no confirmed medical tragedy hidden from the world. Her professional career was gradually taken away by injuries while she was still young. Chronic back trouble, problems with her foot, and repeated attempts to return eventually made the demands of the tour impossible. She left without the farewell she had earned. That unfinished ending helped create an unfair version of her story. Anna became known as the beautiful tennis player who never won a singles title. The description was repeated so often that it began replacing the complete record. But the complete record tells us something else. She reached number 8 in the world in singles. At 16, she made the Wimbledon semi-finals. In Miami, she defeated 4 top 10 players during the same tournament. She became the number 1 doubles player in the world, won 16 doubles titles, and captured 2 Australian Open championships with Martina Hingis. Those achievements were not created by magazine covers. They required years of training that began in Moscow when Anna was still a small child. They required leaving home, moving to Florida, competing against adults as a teenager, and learning to perform while thousands of spectators watched her every movement. She never became the singles champion many people expected. That disappointment belongs in her story, but it should not be the entire story. The wheelchair seen in January 2025 also deserves context. Anna was wearing an orthopedic boot, suggesting that she was recovering from an injury to her right foot or leg. The exact cause was not publicly explained. Without that information, anything more would be speculation. What followed did not resemble the tragic ending some headlines seemed prepared to announce. Before the year was over, Anna and Enrique Iglesias welcomed their 4th child. In March 2026, they introduced their youngest son as Romeo. A few months later, Anna shared another rare family photograph showing her 3 older children celebrating together in matching Spanish football shirts. These were small glimpses, but they showed where her life had gone. The girl who was once watched by everyone had become a mother, protecting 4 children from the same kind of attention she had never been able to escape. She had remained with Enrique for more than 2 decades, building a relationship that survived without constant interviews, staged appearances, or public explanations. Perhaps this is why Anna Kournikova can still seem absent even when she is doing well. Her life continues outside the frame. She was robbed of the final chapters of her tennis career, and there is something genuinely sad about that. We never saw how her game might have matured. We never saw whether she could finally win the singles title that followed her like an accusation. We never saw her choose the moment to leave. But Anna did choose what happened afterward. She chose privacy. She chose family. She chose not to spend the rest of her life defending her record to people who had already decided what she represented. At 45, she is no longer the teenager the world remembers. She should not have to be. When you think of Anna Kournikova, what do you remember first? The crowds at Wimbledon, her partnership with Martina Hingis, or the enormous attention that sometimes overshadowed her tennis? Share your memory in the comments. And subscribe to the channel for more honest stories about the sporting legends whose lives continued long after the cameras looked away.